Jason Carr live inside the parade company on Facebook Live. We see the governor fast approaching here outside this brand new float from the Ford Motor Company as we get set here to do a post-event media scrum. Good morning, Governor. How are you?
Good. This is a wonderful event, and it's wonderful. Look at the new floats. Ford's got a fabulous new float. A number of other companies will. I think the parade's just getting better and better every year. It's exciting.
And will you be back for the parade?
Well, I'll be watching it on TV. Actually, it's one of those times I'm cooking the turkeys, so I'm working pretty hard.
So real men cook.
Well, yeah. The tradition is I'll cook 2 turkeys, I'll do the stuffing, and then fortunately Sue's doing all the other hard work.
Well, more importantly, how are you making the turkeys? Are we deep frying? Are we baking? Or what's going on there?
I'm using a roaster this year. I've done deep frying, I've done the other choices, but it helps on the family time. If you're doing the deep frying, you're standing outside for a lot of time. This is a nice way to spend more time with the families, hopefully watching the Lions win.
And Governor, as it relates to the election, couple more days, do you have election fatigue?
Well, I think everyone in the United States probably has election fatigue, but it's important, and I encourage people to get out to vote. In this area, though, one thing I really encourage people to look hard at is we've got the opportunity to build a regional transit system. And that's something we've missed for decades, and we're behind the rest of the country, and it will help people get to jobs, help disabled people, help our seniors. So I hope people take a hard look at that proposal, and hopefully we can move forward with a good transit system.
What if it fails?
That would be a major step back. I mean, I was proud to sign the legislation to set the framework for that a couple years ago, and this is the step that will allow it to move forward. So I hope people really get out and vote for that proposal.
Are you disappointed a little bit in some of the leaders? Because it seems like lukewarm endorsements, not like wholehearted support for the plan.
Well, again, I think it's good, though, that people are looking at it. I think there's widespread support from so many groups, and I hope it passes in terms of it's a big step forward for the whole region. And then otherwise, people will be looking forward for a quieter life, I hope, after next Tuesday.
Let the record show that Rochelle Riley has joined the conversation. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much.
Live on Facebook, so.
Oh, well then let me just
the next question for
change
you.
my face.
Rochelle, the big thing I was actually making sure people look at and promoting is the Regional Transit Authority. I think that's an outstanding opportunity for this region to move forward after being behind the rest of the country, but in a way to help seniors, people with disabilities, and create more jobs for people that need those opportunities.
I did have one question about that because all of those things have been true for a long time and it's vital for this region. But do you think the RTA might have also pushed a little harder the fact that we got to stop asking millennials why they won't stay if we don't provide one of the main things they said they need, which is a regional system? Should there be more impact on what it's going to do for the future?
I think people hopefully recognize that. I clearly do, and that's one of the things that got me excited to sign the legislation that allowed this framework to happen. But I appreciate that. We should bring that up as often as we can through the election cycle to say, it's also to keep our young people here and to attract more young people to this area. And it's exciting to see what's going on, but we can't take it for granted. Let's keep that momentum going, keep the Detroit comeback at the forefront. Michigan's comeback's going on. This is an exciting time, and that's why it's great to have people seeing a positive spirit with a wonderful parade that's growing and getting better.
If the Pistons move downtown, what do you think should happen with the Palace of Auburn Hills? What would you like to see? I mean, it's a concert venue, obviously, but how would you like to see that go forward?
Yeah, well, again, that's up to the Gores organization working with Oakland County. But if you look at it, I think there'll be multiple options, because in many respects, that's prime real estate. And if you look at, we see a growing business community along I-75. There's very little commercial real estate available along I-75, so there'll be multiple uses for that if they happen to move.
I have presidential race polls showing it's very tight. Do you think Donald Trump is going to pull it off, and who are you really pushing hard for him?
Well, again, I'm staying out of the presidential race. As governor of Michigan, I'm spending my focus on the state house races, the Supreme Court, and great ballot proposals like the Regional Transit Authority.
I do have one question, though, about the Detroit School Board. You've had to participate in local matters, particularly in Detroit, probably more than any governor in a long time. This is not only an opportunity for that school district to get a new start, but for a different kind of leadership. What is your hope for who gets elected on Tuesday, and what do you want from them to make sure you don't have to send someone in to run the schools again?
Yeah, well, again, I'm excited about seeing an elected school board. I was an advocate to see that happen, and so I hope people do their homework and due diligence. There are a lot of candidates. And I hope people take their time to be very thoughtful about getting outstanding people elected, because having a high caliber, high quality school board is going to be critically important, because one of the big decisions they're going to have to make fairly quickly is hiring a new superintendent. And if you look at successful schools, successful enterprises, successful governments, in many ways, it's when they have a vision and a mission that goes for a decade or longer. People can turn over, but you got to have that vision, mission, and thoughtfulness that is for the long term, not just the short term. And that's where it's important to get a school board that comes together early on and sets that vision.
One last education question from me. One of the tragedies of the legislation, for all that it did, was that there was not a Detroit Education Commission or some type of oversight authority to make sure that schools go where they should, and that there's something that looks at the landscape for children. Do you plan to step in and try to offer any advice or do anything, official to make sure that the schools are where they need to be and parents have what they need for their kids so that they can continue to stay in Detroit?
That's a good question, Rochelle. In many respects, I was a supporter of the DEC, and I continue to support the concept. So I hope there will be an ongoing dialogue, that I don't view it just because it wasn't part of this legislation that it's a dead issue. It's a worthwhile issue to continue a dialogue. And then as we don't have something like that, how do we get input and thought processes from the community and people involved? Because people care about their schools.
Come Wednesday morning, are you going?
He has not given up on it, so have those discussions continue?
Well, again, I think people are quite active. There's an election season going on right now, so would I say they're active discussions? Not at this point, but again, issues have their moments in time, but this could be an ongoing dialogue about how best to deal with the issue about making sure we have the right school systems and the right schools in a community.
So it could happen at some point.
Well, again, I'm continuing to support the concept.
All right, thank you, Governor.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Governor.
Thank you, Governor. On Facebook Live, Governor Rick Snyder outside this venue here at the Parade Company. The new Ford float that you will see on the parade route, the 90th parade, and we'll be bringing it to you live on Local 4 WDIV, also live streaming on Click On. Plus, we'll have Facebook Lives along the route as well. So that's going to do it from here. Let's go back to your regularly scheduled news feed.